Hi guys, it's Ange. So today we're going to read a newspaper article written on August 25th, 1907, or rather it was released on August 25th, 1907. On the left-hand side of the newspaper, in the upper left-hand corner, there's a hand-drawn picture of James McKenney, and in quotes, they have him referred to as the King of Malaga. On the top of the page, in big bold letters, King of the Lawless. So here we go. We took along a licensed pilot, since the waters about Malaga Island are treacherous for navigation, and arrived at the island in about an hour and a half. 2 trips of the tender carried those who desired to land ashore, and then we looked about us to see where we were situated. We first saw an old Negro who seemed to lack all intelligence, and then we saw walking toward us a white man of fisherman-like appearance, whom we saluted. The next paragraph: approach of the king. But instead of treating the visitors with majestic haughtiness, he conducted them about with some degree of politeness and an evident feeling of curiosity, answering their questions with a yes or no, or I suppose so, with perfect nonchalance, although volunteering no information which was not asked for. I could tell much about conditions, as they had been previously, by inquiry from the members of the colony, said people who had heard rumors, and most that I found out was a good many of whom were children. Some were colored, others were white, while still others appeared to have mixed blood. They were mostly sitting about on the rocks aimlessly, and there were no signs of work or industry on the whole island. There were between 7 and 10 hovels erected, and although we did not see the insides of many of these, we saw enough to realize that their filth was as repelling as that of the lowest slums of New York or London. But the redeeming feature, which gives most of the children good health, is the outdoor life on the rocks, which is of course denied the children of the slums of the large cities. When we first talked to the king, as people called him, he is an ordinary appearing fisherman, and said that the people depended mostly on seafood for their living. When asked if they did any gardening, he replied that they did not. I asked him why they did not keep a cow. Well, he said leisurely, we thought some about getting one, and perhaps we will this fall. The next one we talked with was a very bright appearing white girl, whom her mother said was 13 years old. I asked her if she could spell her name, but she wasn't able to. Her mother said that most likely she could, if she were not embarrassed. And when I ushered into a bright room, which contained the one bright gleam of civilization in the entire colony, the floor had been washed clean, and the contents had been arranged neatly, we found that an attempt had been made by Mrs. Lane, wife of a doctor, summering at Horse Island, to provide some education for the children. Some kindergarten articles were distributed around, showing that a definite step had been taken to bring enlightenment into the barbarous settlement. On returning to the launch, we were served a bounteous supper by Mr. Childs, and finding that much was left over, we left several baskets of the food on the island, more especially for the children, whom we last saw on the shore, waving their hands, since they had no handkerchiefs, and eating fruit and pastries with a great relish. The next paragraph: epidemic swept island. Last winter, Malaga Island was affected with an epidemic of the measles, and first brought the inhabitants to public notice. The state was obliged to send food and other articles to them, or they would practically all have perished. The island belongs really to the town of Phippsburg, but it is a most unwelcome possession. And the children, the young members of the colony, should be taken from the island by the state and placed in some of the institutions for the poor or delinquent. The adults should be taken from the place and given work on the mainland, for there is plenty of it to enable them to live respectably. The only other method of reforming them that I could think of would be to get a man and his wife to do settlement work on the island. But I do not think this would be profitable, because the colony is not large enough to employ this method. The colony has been in existence for a number of years, and the king told us that he had lived there 35 years, and so it seems as though something should soon be done before the colony increases. It is safe to say that it is the most lawless colony in Maine, although there is not much opportunity for drinking and stealing on account of its very isolation, and some steps to bring about a reformation will in all probability be taken soon. In case you're wondering, this is a full-page article, so there is another paragraph. And the headline is, "Strange Colony in Maine, where ignorance and degeneracy prevail, and the will of one man is supreme." That there should be, within a short distance of the watering places and charming summer resorts of Casco Bay, an island on which a colony of people is living in the utmost ignorance, ungoverned by any law, either civil or moral, and under the predominating will, and by the predominating will of the king, so called by the members of the colony, was the astonishing but veritable fact ascertained by a party of philanthropic people who recently visited Malaga Island, some distance off the coast of Cape Small Point and in the near vicinity of Cundy's Harbor. The party consisted of Mrs. L.M.N. Stevens, Ms. Anna Gordon, Ms. Mary and Helen Daggett of Cambridge, daughters of General A.S. Daggett of the United States Army, Reverend E.H. Cotton of the Baptist Church in Harpswell, Mrs. Cotton, his mother, Reverend W.S. Randall, and others who went simply to enjoy the sail as they visited the island in the magnificent yacht Usona, owned by A.W. Childs of New York, who, with his wife, is summering in Harpswell this season. Philanthropist at work. In speaking about the purpose and results of the trip, Mrs. Stevens told an interesting story concerning conditions as they now exist on the island. "I happened to take the trip," said Mrs. Stevens, "as the result of a letter which I received from Mrs. Daggett, who is philanthropically inclined, and who had heard enough of the rumors concerning Malaga Island to desire an investigation. Accordingly, I in turn invited Mrs. Gordon to accompany us, and we joined the other members of the party on the board of Mr. Child's handsome launch. Of a general nature, though personal observation, I should say, as a rough estimate, that the island contained between 30 and 40 acres of land, and as near as I could find out there were about 40 people in the colony. Asked the mother to help out, she appeared herself embarrassed and failed to assist in the spelling. And so we continued about the island, seeing everywhere signs of poverty and degeneracy, until we were received no attention from the authorities. There should surely be some steps taken to improve the conditions on the island, said Mrs. Stevens, and the children should be taken from the island and put into a state school. So, as you can see by this article, these people come to the island, and it's just a display of what people in the Edwardian times would do. They talk about it in London. It happened a lot in the slums. They would go to these really poor people's apartments, and they would knock on their doors and literally stare at them like they were caged animals. And so basically they're doing the same here. They're having a nice picnic lunch while looking at these children and these people who are living their lives like regular people. Could you imagine somebody camping outside the front of your house or just going into your backyard and literally watching you, just watching you and judging you? They're there to have a nice day of lunch and judgment. And this was very common during this time period. So that's just one incidence of a group of people going there. There's another either newspaper article, I don't think it was a newspaper article, it was a letter that James wrote to one of the newspapers, who they would also take photos of them and make postcards and sell them. When I say that they treated these people like zoo animals, I am not exaggerating. They sold postcards of these people in their homes. And so James writes a letter to the newspaper and is saying that you promised that the pictures that you took of the children and that you would give us copies of them. And of course, they never would give them copies of them. And they always tried to sensationalize these photos, and you can see it in some of the postcards. I will hopefully upload them to my website, and just so you guys can see what I'm talking about. It's just an example of what we were dealing with in that time period. It's frustrating because as a family member, hearing these things and living in the time that we live in today, I want to protect them and I want to stand up for them, and I can't. And this is the only thing I can do to give them a voice, because I know for a fact, without these people, I would not be who I am today. And I look at my sisters and their character, and I think, if my character is the same as them, then I know we came from good people. And you can see as James is very, yes, I'll think about it, I suppose. It's a good idea, maybe. Yeah. He's guarding them, and he's protecting them. And a lot of the times I think that he's trying so hard to protect these people, and he comes from this society, so he kind of knows what they're doing, and he is giving them a little of what they want, hoping they'll go away. And they just wanted more, right? So the more it sensationalize the story, the more newspapers will sell, right? And they found a gold mine of opportunities. And as I'm talking about Malaga Island, I want to be very careful, because Malaga Island wasn't the only island suffering from this harassment, in my summation. Almost all of the fishing villages and islands on the coast of New England, almost all, suffered with the same thing. People showing up on their yachts, just staring at them. I can't even imagine what that would have been like. So I'm trying hard to be unbiased and just tell what I know, but it's super hard because I want to protect them and I want to fix it. And this is the only way I can fix it, and this is the only way I can give them a voice. So, as I said, I will upload these to my website, and you can see this newspaper article, and we will go on with the links. Oh yeah, I forgot to tell you. This is important. The king. So, yeah. When there's a thing with fishermen, and they had a deal on the island. And so every year they would kind of play a game. Whoever caught the most fish that year, or earned the most money selling fish that year, would get the name king for the year. And so it was literally a joke that they called him the king. He wasn't always the king. Sometimes his son-in-law, Jerry Murphy, would also be called the king. It just depended on the year. And so I wanted to at least tell you guys that. So that there's that. It's a huge joke to him. I've been trying to find this newspaper article. I know I read it, and I can't remember if I got it from the museum or if I got it from newspapers.com or Ancestry, and I'm desperately trying to find it. Hopefully I'll find it again. And there's a newspaper article of after the eviction, James goes to the home for to Pineland, to the home for the feeble-minded, and announces himself as the king, and is trying to, with documentation and letters, and trying to bring these people that are stuck in this institution, and in tears he tries to get them out, but obviously it didn't work. And it just shows his character. Like, even though everything is said and done, even though everything is over with, he doesn't stop trying. He still continues to fight for them. And I really like that about him a lot. Okay. So I will see you all again soon, and I hope you learned a lot.